Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies, Blu-rays, and UHDs. And today's movie that I'm going to discuss is indeed a UHD. This is The Haunting of Julia from 1977. I watched this in glorious Dolby Vision. This looks absolutely spectacular in Dolby Vision. This is stars Mia Farrow, Keir Dullea, Tom Conti, directed by Richard Loncraine. 1977 release in the UK, but it never found a distributor in the United States until 1980, 3 years later. So the original title was Full Circle in the UK. When the American distributor picked it up, he wanted to have a little bit jazzier name, The Haunting of Hill House. Here we have The Haunting of Julia. And he emphasized, this is the US cover design, poster art, which is a picture of the ghost. And this was not used in the UK. It's also based on a novel, the first horror novel written by Peter Straub, who Stephen King regards as one of the great horror novelists of the 20th century. The novel was called Julia. And it is indeed a haunting. It is a ghost story, but it's sort of a hybrid between a ghost story and a horror movie. So it's very atmospheric. It's a chilling movie. There's some very chilling scenes, especially the end. It's a rather hypnotic movie. So the horror is rather restrained. There is indeed horror that comes in, and we will see blood, and especially in the last third of the film. And the story concerns the loss of a child, the trauma, the grief that results from it. It does resemble in certain ways Don't Look Now, directed by Nicholas Roeg. In the fact, the loss of a child, a seance, but very much the look of the film, as the cinematographer, who does an absolutely superb job on this film, Peter Hannon. He had been he had studied under Nick Roeg, who was a cinematographer before he became a director. And this atmospheric, hypnotic feel to the film is further amplified by the score by Colin Towns. And this is really a beautiful, beautiful score. And I know it was released, I know, on vinyl back in the day. I know that it's a very desired score. And one of the strange elements about the score is it was composed before the shooting began. In fact, Richard Loncraine, who is on the commentary on this release, the reason he wanted to make the film was because of when he heard the score, he said, "Wow, this is just gorgeous. I have to make a movie to this score." He was not a big fan of horror films. He had only made one film up to that point. The ghost story, the atmosphere of this ghost story is again amplified by London. This is London in the 1970s. I made quite a few videos on films set in New York City in the 1970s. London is just as good a film set. So we get very much a kind of tour of London architecture, various sites, and it's filmed the movie was filmed in late October, November into December, so it's very gloomy. It's very rain-soaked, leaves, wet leaves everywhere, and one of the supplements here is with Simon Fitzjohn, where he goes to the locations today. Just recently, this was I think a BFI release in the UK. So all these supplements are for that edition. I'm not sure if everything was ported over to this is a Scream Factory released in the US. So he shows you all the different locations today, and he shows the scene from the movie and the scene the way it looks today. And Simon Fitzjohn is the creator of this release and the impetus and of its release, but And he also appears with Richard Loncraine on the commentary. So it has a terrific cast in it, and getting back to the look of the film, the production design, Brian Morris. Now they found not only do we get exteriors on location, but we get the house, the haunted house, because this is a movie about a haunted house and the ghost that lurks within. And so they found they used a different facade. The exterior was in one location, but then they found this fantastic house where they filmed in. So this production design is really spectacular. And so to get to the cast, Keir Dullea, this was 50% financed by a Canadian production company. They wanted Canadian actors, Keir Dullea, who brings his sort of severe look to this film. If you've ever seen him in Bunny Lake is Missing, it's kind of a variation on that. We get Tom Conti, who is becoming a big star in the UK. His kind of shaggy, this is his shaggy dog era. If you've ever seen The Norman Conquest, which was on the Alan Ayckbourn play that was broadcast on PBS in the 1970s, he'll remind you, he'll remind you a little bit of Norman from The Norman Conquest, but he's very, very, very genial here. He's the voice of reason, who is Julia's best friend. Julia, played by Mia Farrow, the mother of the lost, of the dead daughter. And then we get a really host of older stars and upcoming stars. Jill Bennett plays Keir Dullea's sister. Nigel Havers, his film debut as the real estate agent, and has one very brief scene. Julian Fellowes, the creator and writer of Downton Abbey, he was, much to my astonishment, he was a very busy actor as well. This too is his film debut, a very brief scene in the British Library. Kathleen Nesbitt, just a veteran of so many movies. We also get Edward Hardwicke in a brief appearance. Edward Hardwicke, a few years after this, would be Dr. Watson to Jeremy Brett's Sherlock Holmes. But this is a star vehicle movie, and Mia Farrow is just, she's just outstanding in this film. She brings her fragility, her vulnerability, she's her gentleness. You want to protect her. She has this slightly, with her short hair, androgynous look, but nevertheless feminine in her appeal. But also, she's just photographed so luminously. I mean, her face just shines, and the cinematographer here just does a great job with her. And she didn't want to play the role because it's a variation for her. It's a variation on the Rosemary's Baby role, and she was constantly getting offers to appear in horror films. Her previous film, The Great Gatsby, she did not get good notices. The film didn't do that well. That's a Robert Redford film. So she finally agreed to do it because this is a starring performance, and it's a pretty good role, and she gives it her all. She's very committed to the movie once it started rolling. 2 days before, the Friday before they were beginning to shoot on Monday, Mia Farrow called the producer and said, "I can't do it. I don't want to do this. I'm tired of doing these kind of roles." So they spent the weekend with her, I think then husband Andre Previn, convincing her to make the film. Now we have quite a number of supplements here on in this. I'll just pause it for a minute if it's clear enough. You can read them all. But I have to mention Kim Newman, who has an interview conversation about the film. It's just fantastic, and he tells you all about Peter Straub, the novel, and how different the novel was. What changes they made to the novel. They pretty much took the main focus of the novel away from the movie in the film script. A lot of that had to do with the casting of Keir Dullea, because The Canadian production financiers, they demanded Canadian actors, but he was young, much younger, like 20 years younger in the movie than he was in the book, and that changed things around considerably. And then, and you have to watch this. I mean, this is absolute great supplement, as anybody who has experienced Kim Newman interviews in the past or commentaries. Then we get a interview with Samantha Gates, and this is not a very good drawing, I don't think, of Samantha Gates from a couple of years ago. She was, I guess she was about 9 or 10 when she appeared in this film, but she has a good recollection of it. An interview with Tom Conti from probably 2022. And he talks about working with Mia Farrow. She was very good to work with, and they got along great. And then we have what is probably one of the best commentaries I've heard this year, with Richard Loncraine and Simon Fitzjohn. Fitzjohn had interviewed everybody who is still around and has a lifelong interest in this film. And it has become a cult film through the years. Now, Richard Loncraine, he didn't care for horror films, and he was not impressed by his work on The Haunting of Julia. So he's doing this commentary with Fitzjohn, who thinks, who understands Loncraine's disappointment with the movie, but he tries to convince Loncraine, no, look at all the fans, this has become a cult movie, and much to Loncraine's astonishment, and because Loncraine thought that the storyline was very poor. He thought that there was one big coincidence. There's a couple of coincidences in the movie, but there's a big one. And he said, coincidences are fine, and they occur in real life, but they're not really so good in the movies. And he was under pressure. Now, this is only his second film, and he blames himself for some of the inconsistencies in the plot, and because it wasn't strong enough. He realized that as they were making the film, but they were under such pressure. They had to have it done before Christmas, because the Christmas break, everybody in the British film industry would take their break for Christmas, and they didn't have enough money to just stop and do things, and Loncraine did not have enough power to demand that they try to figure some of this stuff out before they shoot the scenes. And but Fitzjohn, so it's rather comical to listen to Loncraine, and I think he becomes convinced, and he's very pleased that the film has this cult following, even if he is a bit astonished by it. Now, the film in Dolby Vision looks absolutely gorgeous. I am a great fan of Dolby Vision, especially for these 1970s films, and especially, as you can grasp from the cover art, it's a dark film. There's a lot of scenes at night. There's a great sequence in a basement, and the Peter Hannon just lights everything up so beautifully. So this Dolby Vision really is superb in preserving what it looked like, on film. The producers didn't like it. They said, well, this is way too dark. Why are you shooting such dark scenes? But I think it's so that Peter Hannon is really, it may supersede Richard Loncraine in the appeal of this film. And I think Richard Loncraine would agree with them because this is just a masterpiece. Now, usually I listen to the commentary on the Blu-ray, because there's a Blu-ray with all the features. The commentary is on both the UHD and the Blu-ray. But as I was putting in the Blu-ray, I said, nah, I had watched it the day before. This looks too beautiful. I got to listen to the commentary. I got to experience this movie one more time in Dolby Vision. So again, if you're a horror fan and you want lots of gory horror, that's not the movie. This is, when it was released, it didn't do well because Loncraine did was able to restrain the horror. He admitted, the producers were pressuring him. We need more gore. We need more gore. And Lon Crane today, understands that they wanted to make money. The film didn't make money. If he had made it gorier, it might have made a lot more money. So it didn't get good reviews. There was one, I wasn't able to find any contemporaneous reviews, but it did get one rave review in London. It got a couple good notices in the U.S. Now, when it went to the U.S., it barely got distributed. It was distributed by a production company that was bringing, based I think in New York, that was bringing English horror films to the U.S. that had never been released in the U.S. So there was an attempt to, I don't think I saw it in a movie theater. I think I saw it on cable for the first time. And then a few years ago, I tried to watch it again. I couldn't get past that first scene because it's so disturbing. But if you get past it, you're going to see, I think, a really well-made, well-photographed film with some terrific performances in it. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.